Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. It is time once again for your favorite podcast, and certainly my favorite, Midnight's Edge After Dark. And I'm joined, of course, by a person who I hope this is his favorite podcast, Mr. Tom Connors. How you doing?
Well, it is indeed, but I'm not so sure it's everybody else's favorite podcast, but we can hope. We can cross our fingers, and like we said last time. So
cross our fingers, cross our toes, whatever appendages we have available. We
did get quite a few people who said it was their favorite podcast, and I think we only had one or two people say that it wasn't. So, you know, as far as we know.
Well, can't please everybody.
All right.
And I am, of course, your narrator supreme, Mr. Rob Robot Shlomo, coming to you from Shabby Road Studios, the homelessness capital of Connecticut. Yeah, it is my goal to bring you an interesting factoid about my home state every episode until I run out of them.
That's what I gathered.
Yeah, and not all of those are going to be complimentary, mind you. In fact, I don't think any of them are going to be
you're
complimentary.
Number one on this one. See, it's like you've got some number ones that you brought on, and you've got some where you're moving up the ladder. So
Oh yeah.
So you got your ones that you've already achieved, and you got the ones that you're working on. So.
Got to have goals.
Exactly.
So,
yes,
this is our de facto New York Comic-Con 2017 wrap-up show. We say de facto because it's really not the official Comic-Con wrap-up show, but we're just going to say it is just for purposes of discussion.
So yeah, on that note, what do you say we get into the box office and move along into the Comic-Con news?
Let's do it.
All right, we're going to run through the box office real quick like we usually do. We had a big weekend at the box office, not the way we thought, though. Originally, estimates had Blade Runner 2 coming out at 100 million, then they went down to 50 million, and sadly, it only brought in 31 million at the box office this weekend, so not very good. It's kind of like history repeating itself, because I'm sure Rob remembers that the original Blade Runner didn't do too well in theaters either, and gained more of an audience later on video.
And on cable, yeah.
In cable and stuff like that, yeah, and then through the various different versions. This is getting a lot of great reviews, though, for the most part across the board, so I can see this kind of having the same, growing its own cult following later on down the road as well, possibly. If not, maybe we'll see a jump or a bump next weekend, or a very small decline, and who knows, it might carry on for a few weeks until some of the bigger releases come out again down the road here. But yeah, so maybe, you never know. What's your thought on Blade Runner before we move on to the rest of the list?
I'm not really a fan.
No.
I tried. I watched it. It wasn't for me. So that's all I could say about that.
I liked it. I'm not like an avid fan though, to where I wanted to go see it this weekend, but I just didn't get to it. So maybe that's why it only made $31 million. There's a lot of people like me, to where they're like, yeah, I'll get to it eventually.
Yeah, your $12.50 would have really tipped the scale.
I sure it would have. You never know. But anyway, so coming in at number 2, opening up, was The Mountain Between Us. There was a mountain between that and Blade Runner, though. It only made $10 million. It came in at... Go ahead.
Yeah, Idris Elba fans, this is your chance, okay?
Yeah. It came in at number 3. My Little Pony opened up at number 4 with $8.8 million. The Bronies obviously didn't come out to support that. Anything to say about that, Rob?
No. Move on.
Kingsman got 8.1 million to come in at 5th place. American Made came in at 6. The Lego Ninjago movie dropped to number 7. Victoria and Abdul came in at number 8 with 4.1 million. Flatliners dropped way down to 9th place with 3.8. Not good at all. That makes its U.S. box office total haul only $12 million.
And that's on what kind of budget?
$19 million budget.
Ooh.
Yeah, not good. Another Sony failure there. Battle of the Sexes came in at number 10 with $2.4 million. So yeah, anything stick out to you other than Blade Runner? Oh, and I should point out, Blade Runner did make $50 million overseas, though. So could be Warner Brothers Mad Max this year. The big trailer release so far from the New York Comic Con is Justice League, and we got Andre with us here on Midnight's Edge After Dark real quick to kind of tell us what he thinks about it, and of course Rob's going to tell us his reaction to it as well.
Definitely looks a bit more explodier than the previous trailers. It's got more colors than just black, white, and gray. So I guess that's progress. It looks like it has a lot of the same problems that Batman v Superman had. It's just a lot of... Okay, the elephant in the room, we still haven't had the proper setup to all this. We're jumping right to Justice League, and we still don't care about the Flash or Aquaman or... And even though we've had a Superman and a half movie, we still don't care about him either. So, I don't know. It's just seems like all the same problems are exacerbated here. I like the whole David Bowie Heroes thing. I like that. Like I said, it just seems like, oh yeah, we're giving you. We know the Batman v Superman wasn't very good, so we're just going to give you more of what made that movie not very good to begin with, and we're going to tell you that it's better. That's my take on it.
And as for me, I think this trailer is a huge step in the right direction compared to the previous trailers for Justice League, none of which I liked, by the way. Quite the contrary, I disliked them. I didn't like the tone of them. I especially didn't like the color palette. Here they have done some work on the color palette, and this is more like it, because the previous one had like so dark colors, like all black almost, plus some really dark colors, whereas here it looked more visually pleasing, and I also think it seemed more fun and more joyous, which of course they said all along, that they were going to make the movie more light-hearted, which was obviously one of the takeaways from Batman v Superman. What the trailer did miss, though, was like the credits in the trailer where it says from the director of so-and-so movie. This trailer should have said from the writer and director of The Avengers, Joss Whedon, because this is a Joss Whedon movie. You can try to give Zack Snyder all the credit you want, but look at the difference between this trailer and previous trailers. This is the post-Joss Whedon reshoots trailer. And I have no doubt that this is now a Joss Whedon movie. And there's nothing wrong with that. The movie is probably better for it. And kudos to Warner for doing what was necessary to fix the movie, which early indications are they probably have done. That's how you do it. Marvel should have learned with the Inhumans. But that's another story. Tom?
You kind of stole my thunder a little bit, because I was going to say I like this movie better the first time and it was called The Avengers, but no, this, out of all the trailers thus far, this is the best one, but that's not saying much. I still didn't like a lot of stuff in the trailer. I'm a little bit more optimistic going forward for some of the reasons you guys said, and I'm also not so sure for a lot of the reasons that Rob brought up earlier, especially too, because if anything, I guess the best way to end it would be to say it definitely shows that the rumors we heard about Joss Whedon almost pretty much reshooting the entire movie were probably true, because there's so much here that looks like it's a completely different movie from what we got in the earlier trailers. At least that's what I think. So yeah, there was a Marvel panel, too, that you wanted to discuss a little bit about, Rob. Since we do have a lot of comic book fans in the group, and most of our news coverage does revolve around comic books and or as far as superhero films and stuff like that. So, yeah, tell us a little bit about that panel.
Thursday morning, Marvel had a closed-door breakfast with a lot of their retail partners, as they call them. A lot of comic book shop owners come in and to discuss all the new products and stuff. You got guys like from Mile High Comics out in Denver. All the bigger shops come in, and several outlets are reporting that about halfway through the presentation, all hell broke loose. That a man actually stood up and was saying to the panel about how that he has kids coming into his store, and after they watch the Avengers and they're looking for the Avengers, looking for books starring the classic characters, starring Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, Hulk, and his complaint was that they're leaving empty-handed because Marvel really has, through their all new, all different initiative, changed every single hero to the point where they're unrecognizable. And this man was actually the man wasn't identified. He was talking about the changes, and he was saying about how, and a lot of outlets have actually picked up on the racial aspects and the misogynist aspects, but this goes deeper actually. This is from a excerpt from a website called comicsbeat.com. Anyways, it says, this same retailer continued into a rant blasting Marvel on their recent changes to their most popular characters, complaining that when kids come into his shop after seeing an Avengers movie, they can't find the Avengers in the comics. He complained about Captain America being black, Thor being a woman, and Iceman being gay. This man, who wasn't identified, said, Iceman, a character we all love, now he's gay. It don't make sense. Why don't you make new characters? Don't make changes to the old characters that we love. This was met with a smattering of applause. Nick Lowe, who's a writer for Marvel, countered with, we do all kinds of different characters. We do all kinds of different stuff. The retailer continued, then don't mess with the old characters. The old characters are solid. Nick Lowe politely interjected here, saying, sir, they've been doing this at Marvel for years. Thor became a frog. This retailer was particularly irked that Iceman was now gay. He came back to that over and over in his rant about Marvel changes. I got kids coming to my shop, and you got Iceman kissing dudes. Okay, this actually leads up to the point that Nick Lowe actually said, we've been doing this for years, they've been doing this for years, and this man who's, like I say, we don't know who this man is, but he was quoted as saying, but it's when Nick Lowe said, we've been doing this for years, but this is the first time Marvel has changed all the characters at once. Which is really the problem here.
Right, that's the overall real problem. Despite what, this guy obviously has some personal issues, especially with the gay thing. But
well, yeah.
That aside,
not that there's anything wrong with that,
I'm not saying anything, but
not that there's anything wrong with that. Oh no, I've been outed. I was never even in. So, but anyway, we digress. As funny as that episode was of Seinfeld, a little Seinfeld shout out for you. But no, like I said, there's several websites that are picking up on this, and they're playing up a lot of the, like I said, the homophobic and the racial aspect of this. But this runs deeper than that. Marvel is in a business where they have to they need retail partners, and these guys are relying on Marvel producing a good enough quality product that people will want to buy. That is the elephant in the room that nobody's addressing. And Marvel, these guys who run the comic book shops, they sunk a great deal of time, a great deal of effort, a great deal of work, and a great deal of money into their business. And right now, they're being hurt because Marvel is deciding to just turn everything upside down on them, to the point right where they can't sell books. There are accounts, if you poke around the web, where they're saying we can't sell them. They're saying we can't sell these books. We have no problem selling DC books, but the Marvel books just sit on the shelves. And that's the real problem here. And actually, it's gotten to the point, actually, in a somewhat related story, that Big Hero 6, which is a Marvel property, is going to be published by IDW.
There's a few things you could say about this, and I don't want to get into it too much because it is a shaky it's shaky ground to really get on when it comes to certain subjects. Yeah. And we usually don't try to get into those subjects too often on here or the main channel for that matter. But just in our overall observation of this, I get what he's saying for the most part. Like I said, underneath and despite some of the hang-ups this guy obviously has, he's making a point that a lot of other people have been making, especially in our group on Facebook and stuff that I've been reading a lot lately. And it seems like Marvel has been doing the opposite of what their film studio has done and not learned any lessons at all, because DC learned their lesson from doing the New 52 that things need to go back a little bit closer to what they were before. Too much change is too much at once.
Yes.
Like you were kind of saying. And so they've kind of backed things off just a little bit, and their sales have gone up and up and up exponentially. Now, the films, on the other hand, well, outside of Wonder Woman and Suicide Squad, the financial side of things and critical and everything all around has been kind of
shaky.
Yeah, same thing with, but like the same thing on the other side with Marvel. Their film studio has been knocking it out of the park, especially with the last few. But as far as the comic books now, for some reason, because they've decided to just go with this immense like purge and change all these characters at once, is really just driving a lot of the customers away, and I can totally understand that. And a perfect example, though, is that it's not so much a racism or a sexism or a homosexual thing. It has more to do with just the mass change, because, like, for example, X-23, who is the new Wolverine or whatever, the female Wolverine, she's been very well received.
Yes.
By a lot, so I mean, it's not so much that it's the like changing a character here or there, or doing an update here or there, doing something a little different. It's so many at once, and it's just seemingly rubbing people the wrong way. And their excuse is, well, diversity is what's the thing now, and people like to be able to relate to these characters and blah blah blah. That's fine. Make a character that you think that this person that you're trying to get to relate to it may relate to. Don't take away the characters that already exist, and that's what this guy's saying, and that's what I've heard many people from many different backgrounds, races, and all that kind of stuff saying too, is you don't need to change these other characters.
No.
Give us something new or different. There's nothing wrong with that. And at the same time, like I've said before, sometimes it doesn't really matter. If you can turn around and change the race or the sex or sexual orientation of a character without it becoming, obviously there just for the sake of changing it, then fine. I've said it millions of times. Superman could be black. Superman could be Asian. Superman could be, whatever color you want to make him, because he's technically an alien and he's also adopted, and everybody knows that. So you don't have to really stop the story in any way, shape, or form from the previous versions to tell that version. Same thing goes for Batman for the most part. I mean, there's certain things that, like you've said in the past, that you have a problem with that, but still, in the end, really, when it boils down to it, as long as Batman has the suit, the cape, and the batarangs, and the Batmobile and all that kind of shit, he's still Robin.
They're still Robin?
and has Robin and all that good. I don't know why I even fucking said that. He's still, I was going to say Robin in there, but he doesn't always have Robin, so I'm going to say that again. He's still Batman, really, when you boil down to it. But you come up with like a situation like Fantastic Four, where they change the character of, Johnny Storm just to make him black, for no other reason than to make him black, or even worse yet, just so they could have, the diversity at the same time, but then not have an interracial relationship between Reed Richards and Sue Storm. So they had this whole convoluted story of her being adopted and shit, which stops the fucking story to have to tell that. And it's, that's basically the point we've gotten to before, I've gotten to, and
a better example is you get kids, they go to the movies, they see Captain America Civil War, okay, then this kid said, oh cool, oh that's awesome, maybe I want to go to the comic book shop, see if I can get a copy of Captain America. Then you have Captain America #1, and Captain America Steve Rogers is a Nazi or is Hydra or whatever, and
right, and there's a perfect example, because they've gone and done this stuff not just with, the sexual orientation, the race, and all that kind of stuff, so much as they've even turned around and, like you said, just made these convoluted stories that make no sense by having, like, 3 or 4 different clones of Steve Rogers or some shit, or what the fuck's going on now?
Yeah, well,
I don't know.
Now, Steve Rogers, he's walked away from being Captain America, which just sounds like Nick Spencer has just said, just given a finger to the fans. A final F you. Oh, you didn't like my story? Fuck you. Okay, Steve Rogers is going to take a powder now. So, but like I said, I think I don't know if it was you or whatever. You said if you're running a restaurant and you have a menu, you have stuff that people like on the menu, you don't change the menu overnight. You add 1 or 2 items, but you keep the favorites. You keep the stuff that works.
You brought it up, but that's a good analogy, and it is. You can't. If you're gonna do something to that extreme, come up with something different. You know, it'd be like if Rob walked in and said, "We're gonna remake Star Wars, but we're gonna take Darth Vader and we're gonna make him elderly woman, and we're going to take Luke and we're going to turn him into a green frog, and we're not going to have Obi-Wan Kenobi. There's not going to be an Obi-Wan Kenobi. And Chewie is actually going to be a real dog, and Han Solo is going to be a woman, and Princess Leia is going to be a gay guy, and they're all going to, it's going to be a musical, and, you know, just crazy shit. It's like, okay, at some point, why don't you just make something on your own? Because that sounds nothing like Star Wars now. You're getting so far from the mothership. You know?
Actually, yeah, that's a good point. The Marvel Universe is really no longer the Marvel Universe. I mean, they've made so many changes that it's unrecognizable. I mean, yeah, you still have Daredevil. You still have Thor is still lurking around. But, I mean, you've made...
It's just a matter of time at this point.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking we turn Daredevil into a Polynesian woman, and it's just, and we've said this time and time before, the audience they want doesn't buy comics. They don't commit to it, and all of these books are tanking because of it, and Marvel's sales are tanking, you know.
Okay, yeah. Let's just call the elephant out in the room here. This is the same thing with Ghostbusters. We've said it before, and it rings true every time. We don't like coming off as so anti-SJW on this channel and on our Facebook group, but there's just this never-ending stream of hypocrisy when it comes to them standing up for something that they don't really give a shit about. And what I mean is, perfect example was Ghostbusters. You had SJWs coming out of the woodwork to stand up for Ghostbusters, but where the fuck were they opening weekend when the movie came out? They weren't to be seen at the box office. And that's what we're getting at here, is the SJWs and the people who actually, the SJWs and the people that they're actually trying to gain the support of don't buy comic books. They don't buy the product.
Yeah, and it's a tough pill for a lot of people to swallow to realize that. But like I said, you know, they for whatever reason, too nerdy, too expensive, they just will not buy the books long term. They may buy 1 or 2 issues, but then decide, you know what? I've done enough, or this isn't for me, and that's it. You know, these are people, and I hate using the term hashtag activists or whatever, or hacktivists, whatever.
But it's true.
But they like they're comfortable with being activists on Twitter and saying this is great, but like I said, and there's actually a great line from Grand Theft Auto. It's not enough to talk about something. If you really love something, you got to throw money behind it.
Well, our message to Marvel Comics is basically this. These people are going to move on to something else pretty soon. They're going to move on to the next thing. And you're going to have absolutely nobody to turn to anymore. And unless that's what your goal is, to completely just demolish the comics department altogether to where it doesn't really exist anymore, then you need to make some changes back in the other direction just a little bit to try and gain some of the ground back that you had before with the comic community, because up to a point, Marvel Comics were ahead of the game by far, to where DC was trying to keep up, and finally they've, you know, gotten some of their shit together to the point where people are just looking at you guys and saying, what the fuck is the deal here? Because you can open up movies big time, and you've got all these random characters like the Guardians of the Galaxy and Ant-Man, you know, doing very well at the box office. Why can't you get your shit together on the comic page where it's even easier to do?
I'm thinking Disney's going to hold an intervention at some point where they're going to say, hey guys, you know,
that, or they just don't give a shit, because the comics division probably doesn't bring in that much money.
But
I mean, to be honest,
but at the same time, though, it's sort of a gateway into the MCU, into the larger Marvel universe.
Right, and I'm not arguing that point, but it's come to a point though where I can see them seeing it as far as media goes, the actual comic book itself is less important than the characters anymore, to where they'll live on more so in cartoons, TV shows, and movies. I'm not saying it will ever happen per se, but it could.
And a lot of people actually point to the decline of the local comic shops. A lot of people don't have a comic shop near them, and that's another thing they have to address by put comics back in the Barnes & Noble. put comics back into 7-Elevens, put comics back into supermarkets or grocery stores or drugstores. I mean, there's other things, there's other avenues. I mean, comics did well for years being in drugstores and convenience stores. I mean, you don't have to sell all of them. You're never going to put all of them, but it'd be nice to have a rack in there with some of the more popular titles. You can put put the X-Men, you can put Batman, you can put Superman in it, Spider-Man in those racks. I mean,
it's tough to find comics anymore, believe me. I was just talking about this with Andre earlier because he was discussing some of the new Star Trek comics and stuff, and I'm like, I haven't really had a chance to because I'm not a big fan of the digital comic thing, and I don't have any shops around or any place that really carries comics. I mean, even when I was a kid, I had to travel great distances sometimes just to find a comic or card shop just to pick up some of this stuff. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah.
I'm fortunate. I do have one that's fairly close to me, but I have another that there are more of them. There's more just kind of scattered throughout the area. So even it's pretty fortunate in that respect. But the comic shops aren't doing all that well. And it would be nice that if they were doing well, and part of them doing well is having good stuff that people want to buy. And that's what I'm gonna leave it at that.
Well, and that's what this guy is saying, really, to just kind of bring it back around. You know, he's saying to these guys, you're not creating the product that these people expect to come in and buy. I mean, if you put Pepsi on the label and someone takes a drink and it's, Mountain Dew, that's basically what this guy's saying. How can I put that shit on my shelf?
Exactly. So
let's move on from that then. And we have a Trek log, do we not, today?
I do believe we have ourselves a Trek log.
Space, the final frontier. These are Captain Robb's logs.
Captain, I do believe it is time for the Trek log. Oh my. So, oh wow, this is
that's quite a lot.
Oh my. Okay,
what's in the Trek log, Captain?
Well, we just got this story beamed in actually in the Trek log. It was actually Star Trek Discovery had a significant presence at the New York Comic-Con. And we've actually have revealed, or it's been revealed, that Michelle Yeoh is coming back. Ooh. This is piece written by a writer named Keisha Hatchett. We're going to give her credit.
Is it a hatchet job?
Oh, hi-yo. Ba-dum-bum. The cast of Star Trek Discovery dropped new details about Captain Georgiou, Michelle Yeoh, at the New York Comic-Con Saturday. Executive producer Gretchen J. Berg confirmed that we haven't seen the last of the Federation captain, who was killed in the second half of the 2-hour premiere. Okay, that's bullshit right there. It was not a 2-hour premiere.
Yeah.
It was really more like an hour and 12 minutes, really, if you think about it.
Right.
Okay, you will see more of this woman on the show, she said. Yeoh made a surprise appearance posing as a fan in a mask, asking a question before revealing her true identity. After joining the cast on stage, she had harsh words for Jason Isaacs' Captain Lorca. I'm telling you, Captain Gabriel Lorca, she began, if you don't look after my baby girl, I'm going to kick your ass.
Well, yeah, I don't think she's coming back from the dead or anything. I think she's just going to pop up in some flashbacks and stuff. What do you think?
Yeah,
Rob?
I think flashbacks, unless she actually, because she got stabbed right through the chest. That's a tough one to come back from.
Right. I mean, it is sci-fi. There's always that possibility, but considering it's been 6 months already and she ain't back.
Yeah. They'll Deus Ex Machina her back one way. Moving on, right along Trek log. Star Trek Discovery showrunner said he had some words about keeping the modern aesthetic in line with canon. Showrunner Alex Kurtzman was interviewed by Trek Movie, and he discussed many aspects of the popular science fiction series. Popular in quotes, obviously.
Yeah.
Including its unique place in the canon. Kurtzman explained the position in the Star Trek timeline 10 years before the original series creates a conundrum in terms of props and costumes. Kurtzman said, obviously, Discovery looks more modern than the original series because we are in a modern world now, and if we made the show look that way, people would not feel it was worth the money. That being said, every prop and costume is being filtered through what existed at the time. And we do create the new version of it, or we do augment the original design in very subtle ways, or do we just leave it alone? And when I get ready for another one. And when I say every prop and design choice, I mean every prop and design choice. Just sounds like more just kind of justifying his own existence.
You know what? I'm just going to tease something here.
You tease.
I will tease. We're going to bring this subject up quite a bit more in the future, but it may not be on this show, so stay tuned upon that. That's all I'm going to say.
Depends how I liked it, the next episode of Discovery.
Well, regardless, you and I both know what I'm talking about, so we'll just leave it at that for now, just because I haven't got the A-OK to bring it up yet. Okay. So,
but yeah, there will be more Trek news in the future, so keep your eyes and ears open for that, and your nose too. We deal in all the senses. So,
I have a feeling we may be able to announce it by the next show. But anyway. Moving along. Is there any more Trek news for today, Captain?
Alex Kurtzman has, he's trying to explain why the Klingons look the way they do. So, again, this is from the same interview. Executive producer Alex Kurtzman said he wanted to address the Klingons speaking for a long time. This is at New York Comic Con. He said, at the heart of Star Trek is the idea that we think of the other is a mirror to ourselves. The core of Kurtzman's argument was that the Klingons will be shown in a multidimensional way and would not simply be othered or villains. It was important, he said, that we represented both sides of the war in a way that is understandable and relatable. We needed to know what it's like for them to go through this too, he continued. We wanted to shift everyone's perspective of what the Klingons are, because they have often been relegated to just being the bad guy. See, no, they weren't not on Next Generation.
I was going to say, they've only been the bad guy in one and a half series, basically, because they didn't show up on Enterprise, did they?
Yeah, actually, they did show up on it.
Or did they? Okay. They've only been... Okay, so I'll say that again. They've only been a bad guy in 1.5 series.
Pretty much.
I mean, does this guy even know what's... This just goes to show that I don't know if this guy really knows much about Star Trek to begin with.
Actually, yeah, he says, to explain they want... He says, for back a little word, they try to humanize them. To explain what they want and why they want it. If they didn't explore this, Kurtzman said, this wouldn't be Star Trek. This isn't Star Trek anyway!
Oh, my fucking God. I mean, I almost got to call a timeout here. The stupidity level has gone just through the roof. I don't understand how they can keep feeding this. It's like they're believing their own bullshit now. They've convinced themselves.
Remember Seinfeld again. Remember George Costanza. Jerry, just remember, it's not a lie if you believe it.
Exactly. I guess. Fuck me. I almost have to laugh just to not cry at this point, at how fucking much this has just gotten to a point where, oh my God, do they not understand? Does this guy not get it? Does everybody else not get it? I mean, I'll fucking say it. Every time I see a Star Trek Discovery advertisement on Facebook, I read the comments, Rob, and at least 90% of those comments are not good. Or at least not good for CBS and Star Trek. I mean, if you don't believe me, look at yourself. You can go look yourself when you see one on Facebook. Go ahead and click. 90% of those comments are negative comments as far as the show goes, or they're saying they're not going to subscribe to CBS All Access, or they're just going to watch the Orville and they don't like STD. It's getting pretty ridiculous at this point. I don't know what they think they're trying to accomplish anymore. I don't know.
Well, speaking of the Orville, actually, while we got the Trek log open, Seth MacFarlane...
Might as well.
Unfortunately, Seth MacFarlane did not make New York Comic Con, but he did appear via Skype, and he said something that I think we all would be looking forward to. Can I get a drum roll, please? Seth MacFarlane said he is confident that the Orville will get a second season. Hooray! I really want the Orville to get a second season. Please. Please.
Fox, you finally grew a brain. My God.
And actually, he says we are going to be getting in. He says, actually, there are character arcs introduced in this season that I think are going to go a long way. When asked by an attendee how many episodes Fox has been ordered for the second season, MacFarlane has said Fox has yet to officially order a second season of the Orville, but he is confident that they will get a second season.
Well, that's good. That's good. So keep watching, kids, and that'll pretty much ensure it keeps living on. So.
Yes, and actually, there is actually a small spoiler if you don't want to. For episode 6 of the Orville.
Cover your ears.
Cover your ears. According to International Business Times, Ed and Gordon will go undercover. Actually, no, this isn't a spoiler because they previewed that last week.
Well, now these people got their ears plugged and they ain't even listening to the show, so we could say just about anything we want here. Purple Monkey Dishwasher. You know. But anyway,
but the Orville is just getting better. It just keeps getting better. And the episode last week with Charlize Theron, directed by Jonathan Frakes. Like I said, this is the next generation. This really could easily be Star Trek: The Next Generation. It really could.
Yeah.
It's nice to have something to sort of fill the void, really, as it were, because we sure as hell don't have a new Star Trek.
Right. Anyway, is there anything left in that, speaking of Star Trek, in the log today, Mr. Captain?
No, I think it is time to beam out and wrap up the Trek log.
In transmission.
In transmission. And close out the Trek log for this star date.
All right.
Star date 2017 1008.4 whatever. Alpha. That, yes. So anyway. Ladies and gentlemen, for the roundup. That's right, we have the roundup. Well, buckaroos, time to saddle up. We gonna have ourselves a little bit of a roundup. I don't know if you're a fan of Spawn.
I am.
I read about a year and a half worth of Spawn. Okay. Well, Todd McFarlane, creator of Spawn, says it will be darker than the original.
He's referring to his new remake, correct?
Yes.
The one that we've heard so many lovely things about.
And that we've been hearing for years and years and years.
Yeah.
According to IndieWire, this comes from IndieWire, following the success of Deadpool, the floodgates have opened for R-rated superhero movies. Venom is in production, and soon another movie based on a Todd McFarlane character might be too. Spawn. Among the inspirations McFarlane cites for this reboot, in a new Entertainment Weekly interview, is Jordan Peele's Get Out, another feature debut by Blumhouse. So, hooray. No, Spawn could be good, but it's just... when I was reading it, he just sat around and just complained a lot.
I don't
because
know.
Because he has that inner counter. I mean, every time he does something, it ticks down until the Armageddon starts. So,
I have a feeling that the HBO animated series and John Leguizamo is going to be the best we're going to get out of this at this point. And all I'm saying to that is John Leguizamo was the only good part of the Spawn movie from New Line Cinema back in, what was it, 97, 98, something like that.
I think it was 97.
Yeah. So yeah.
Okay. So okay, we have a little bit of J.J. Abrams news in the
Indeed.
round of Castle Rock trailer. J.J. Abrams dives into the world of Stephen King for Hulu. This comes from Slash Film. At the tail end of New York Comic Con this weekend, Hulu has unveiled the first Castle Rock trailer that actually features footage from the series, executive produced by J.J. Abrams. Dynamite! And set in the fictional location that has been a setting for many of Stephen King's stories over the decades. It really doesn't tell us what the series will be about just yet, but it does tease plenty of Stephen King characters and Easter eggs that will be present.
Right. And we also have a lot of actors who have portrayed different characters in Stephen King films prior to this, all the way up through Skarsgård recently in It plays another different character. Sissy Spacek's in this. Quite a few other people. It sounds like it's going to be an interesting series. I'm kind of interested in it. I know you're not a huge horror fan, but I mean, I've always kind of been a pretty big Stephen King fan, and I've been looking forward to this for a little while. It kind of just made me wonder why they didn't try to get The Dark Tower back, because that kind of does already connect all the Stephen King stories, but as we know, Sony owns the rights to that, and this is being produced by Warner Brothers, as far as I know, who owns most of the other Stephen King stories, besides a few scattered ones out there. But anyway, Rob, go ahead.
Yeah. So moving on, we had Wonder Woman, big hit at the box office.
Yes, indeed.
Now, as you may or may not be aware, there's going to be a movie about the creator of Wonder Woman.
Yes. And
it is actually getting an extended trailer.
Ooh.
Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman gets comic book treatment, extended trailer ahead. Deadline is reporting, with Wonder Woman in the pop culture spotlight, the release of Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman couldn't be any more timely. The Angela Robinson directed feature about the creation of the Amazonian superhero, starring Luke Evans, Rebecca Hall, and Bella Heathcote, received a new extended trailer and a stylized comic book cover at the New York Comic Con. Inspired by a true story, the film centers on Dr. Marston Evans and his polyamorous relationship with his wife and fellow psychologist Elizabeth Hall and Olivia Byrne. Elizabeth, played by Hall, and Olivia Byrne, played by Heathcote. Sorry about that.
Sorry.
A former student. These two women and their feminist ideas influenced the creation of Wonder Woman. And in the 40s, that was controversial. His lifestyle was deemed as perverted, and his progressive comic book received backlash from the community, all of which piqued Robinson's interest. Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman opens on October 13th.
And full disclosure, I've actually been looking forward to this movie more than I was Wonder Woman, because I love these kind of movies. Plus, this story is so interesting. If you're anybody who knows anything about comic book history, Wonder Woman's history has got to be one of the most juiciest you could ever find. And this movie, I think, is going to prove that.
It really kind of defies explanation, really. I mean, you wouldn't think that, because when you think of comic book artists, you think of guys, God bless Stan Lee, but you think of guys like Jack Kirby, kind of hunched over a desk, drawing feverishly. This guy, William Moulton Marston, actually, he invented the lie detector. And there's another claim to fame, but he was a bit of a wild man, actually. So
he was quite the character himself. I'll tell you that much.
Oh
yes.
Yeah,
indeed.
Giggity. I mean, probably the last guy into comic books who probably can get to women. So at the same time,
first and last. Anyway.
So anyway, actually, are you a fan of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure?
Indeed, I am.
As am I.
Huge fan, actually. Huge fan.
Yes. Yeah, Doctor Who's not the only one with a cool phone booth.
That's right. God damn it.
So, Bill and Ted are coming back. Bill and Ted 3 will be called Bill and Ted Face the Music.
Excellent.
Reveals Keanu Reeves. Excellent. Okay, this comes from IndieWire once again. Now more than ever, the world needs to be reminded to be excellent to each other. Ain't that the truth? Talk of a third Bill and Ted movie has kept hope alive that we'll see Bill S. Preston Esquire and Ted Theodore Logan once again even if George Carlin's death means Rufus won't be joining them. Oh, you just depressed me now. Last night at the New Yorker Festival, Keanu Reeves offered a whoa-worthy news that the third installment has a title, Bill and Ted Face the Music. We're trying to get it made, Keanu said. There's a script out there. We're just trying to get it made. Show business is tough. As for the plot, it's a cautionary tale. They're supposed to save the world, but when we see them, they haven't saved the world, and they're married and have kids, and they're playing to nobody. But they have to write this. They have to write the song and face the music. Hopefully, we'll make it before I'm 60.
Right. And I guess just to kind of address the whole George Carlin thing, from a way earlier interview I remember reading years ago or whatever, seeing with, I believe, both Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves, they were talking about it, and they said, I think in the story itself, it will address the fact that Rufus is missing, and that has a big deal to do with why they haven't changed the world like they were supposed to yet. Like there's a big paradox and a reason for that. So I'm sure that'll play into the story, and I'm really excited about that. I've been excited about this since I've first heard about it, but it sounds like they're having some trouble finding somebody to get behind the movie to finance it. So come on, Hollywood, get with the fucking program. This is the kind of movie we need to see.
Yes, it is. We do need a big comedy. We really do. And the time is right.
The first two Bill and Ted's are fucking excellent. I don't care. Even the second one. Some people don't care for it as much, but they're comedy gold. Not only that, they're hilariously original. I mean, you're not gonna find very many movies that were like that up to that point. And yeah, it was like a truly like if Monty Python decided to make a completely American movie, this was it. I swear to God. Or so I don't know how else to explain it because there was nothing else like it before it.
Yeah, it combines a bunch of different elements actually.
Right, yeah.
And I like the first one better, obviously, than the second one, but the second one's still good. Actually, great bit of music trivia. You know who plays Joan of Arc in the first movie?
Go ahead and tell us.
Jane Wiedlin from the Go-Go's.
Oh yes.
So, oh yes, actually, yeah, and she actually had a solo career. She was on that reality show too.
Oh.
And she's actually aged pretty well, really? I have to say.
I haven't seen her recently, so.
But anyway, but hopefully, like I said, hopefully we need more comedies, and we need more comedies, especially with the next bit of news. We've actually had another loss in the entertainment
Speaking
world.
of comedy and, losses.
Yes,
this is too bad.
The world is a little less funny now. Ralphie May. Some of you may know that name. Some of you may not know that name. He was it was actually quite a funny young man. Ralphie May has left us.
Very up and coming young comedian. Far too young.
Yes, Ralphie May died recently of cardiac arrest in Las Vegas at the age of 45.
There were also reports that he had been suffering from pneumonia as well, so I'm sure that contributed to this. And I mean, of course, I've seen a lot of people make some sick jokes about him being overweight and stuff. But you know what, guys? That's the kind of stuff you got to really back off on in this situation, because there's a lot of people who lost somebody close to them, and not only that, yeah, we understand he was a big guy, but that shouldn't be, the source of making fun of the guy. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, let's not speak ill of the dead. Just
it's the same thing with a couple weeks ago or last week when we talked about Hugh Hefner. There's a lot of people trying to drag his name through the mud already. It's like let the family have time to mourn before you start being a jerk. But anyway, I just wanted to say that real quick. But anyway, go ahead, Rob, because I think you have more to say about this because you are a stand-up comedian. So.
Well, yeah. Yeah, obviously I didn't like everything Ralphie did, but Ralphie May was actually a very funny guy, like I said, and it's just so it's just so sad that when you see a guy like that just leave us. And like I said, the world is a lot less funny now, and a lot of comedians actually tend to die early for whatever reason. I mean, Sam, one of my favorites, Sam died due to a drunk driving accident. I'm not particularly a fan of Bill Hicks, but he died at the age of 36. And Richard Jeni, I don't know if you're familiar with him. He died at same age, 45. And now Ralphie May.
Of course, we had Robin Williams a couple of years back.
Williams. George Carlin, the
John
aforementioned
Belushi. Well, I don't know if he was so much stand-up, but yeah. Andy Kaufman. Stuff like that. I mean, you had a lot of these young comedians or comedy stars, Chris Farley, all of them. You know, it's just tragic. It's sad when this shit happens. And most of you probably know Ralphie from Last Comic Standing, actually.
Yeah. Actually, he did do a number of Comedy Central specials, actually, too.
Yeah,
so.
after he was, I can't remember if he won that year or if he came in second or whatever it was, but yeah, I've noticed he was up and coming quite as far as it goes. I mean, that's sad to see this happen to him at this point in his career and everything that was going on for him.
And Mitch Hedberg was another one that actually died far too young.
Oh yes,
too.
yep.
Mitch Hedberg, yeah. But and Ralphie May had actually lost quite a bit of weight too at one point. So he was trying to get everything together, but unfortunately, it was not to be. And Ralphie May, he's survived by his wife Lana and their children April, June May, and August James May. Well, he had a sense of humor actually when he named his daughter April, June, May.
There you go.
So Ralphie May, rest in peace.
We've got a lot on deck coming up. Some stuff on the main channel, some stuff on here, a lot of big announcements coming up, so there's not much we can say about it all at this very moment in time until we get some stuff set in stone. But yeah, we've got some great interviews coming up, which is going to be new for the channel. We got some great new shows that are going to be starting, so that's going to be something to look forward to. What do you think, Rob, about that? And then you can take us out.
Oh, well, one thing I actually forgot. Actually, we are finally, if anyone is a fan, are you a fan of Batman the Animated Series?
Of course.
We are finally getting a Blu-ray next year.
When?
Batman,
I didn't hear this. Oh my God! Seriously? Cool.
Seriously. I saw before. Batman the Animated Series is finally coming to Blu-ray.
Yes. All right, because I'm gonna I'm going to post my review of the Batman Mask of the Phantasm review down below, because the reason that I want to, and I'm kind of happy about that, is because that release was basically one of the determining points that I was told by somebody from the inside whether or not we were going to get this release. So great job, guys, on buying that, because obviously we're getting it. That's awesome.
Yes. It was announced, Warner Brothers, like I said, final piece of the roundup. Warner Brothers, this comes from Polygon. Warner Brothers is remastering Batman the Animated Series, the beloved 1990s cartoon featuring The Dark Knight, for Blu-ray in 2018, the company announced today. The news came during a New York Comic-Con panel this afternoon, marking the 25th anniversary of Batman the Animated Series, which premiered on September 5th, 1992 on Fox. The panel featured series co-creator Bruce Timm, recently retired producer Alan Burnett, Tara Strong, the voice of Barbara Gordon and Batgirl, and Kevin Conroy, the voice actor behind Bruce Wayne and Batman. Gary Marineau, a Warner Brothers representative, held up a DVD box set of Batman the Animated Series as a giveaway for the Q&A portion of the panel. He then announced that this would be the last time Warner Brothers would be giving away a set on DVD, because a remastered Blu-ray version of the acclaimed series is scheduled to be released later in the year in 2018.
Fuck yes.
Yeah, no word yet on whether the remaster will be released only on Blu-ray or if it will come in 4K Ultra as well.
I don't care as long as it's remastered in HD. That's all that matters to me.
What matters is we are getting Batman the Animated Series on Blu-ray.
Yes, because I have the DVD set and it's not the greatest. It doesn't look that good. Because it was obviously made from the Video Masters. Yeah.
Yeah. Batman, one of the things, Batman the Animated Series was the first animated series all done on black backgrounds.
Yeah, it has a very unique,
very unique look to it. Actually, most of the music is music initially done by Danny Elfman. Right. Like I said, Bruce Timm, who also did, he created Harley Quinn, I believe.
I believe so.
Specifically for the series, Mark Hamill. That's where Mark Hamill found fame as the Joker. Yeah. And of course, who doesn't love Kevin Conroy's voice as Batman?
I'm Batman.
I really do wish we can go back and just redub all the dialogue from the Dark Knight and Batman Begins and The Dark Knight Rises in Kevin Conroy's voice.
Why, what's wrong? Can't you understand him?
I'm the word hockey man. So anyway, so that let's even though we were brought down by the Ralphie May news, we're now back up.
Yeah, I'm glad you forgot to bring that up earlier, because now I'm like smiling, because this is really good news. I'm glad to hear this. So, yeah.
As am I.
As am I. All right. So, Rob, why don't you take us out then, my friend?
So, if you enjoy what we do here, if you enjoy this podcast, and you enjoy all the stuff we have at Midnight's Edge, I would like you to please hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to click the bell icon because of YouTube changes. Unless you hit the bell icon, you're not notified of new content when it's uploaded. So you hit that bell icon, ring that bell, as Gloria Gaynor used to say.
Ring my bell.
Okay, that's as much as we can use that song without paying the copyright for it.
Ding-a-ling-a-ling.
Sad. So speaking of bells, so sad. Chuck Berry's only #1 hit was "My Ding-a-Ling." So sad. But anyway, and if you do like what you hear, if you do like what we do on Midnight's Edge and here in After Dark, then please consider supporting the channel through Patreon. Patreon users will receive various bonus content. You'll receive lost episodes. You will get Patreon exclusives such as bloopers, outtakes. You will get the making of Behind the Edge series. You will get the full, unedited audio from the Alien mini documentary, which was a bitch for me to record.
Which, yeah, that's a common thing. You will get a lot of early videos that will be coming to the main channel or the After Dark channel, but you get them in an earlier version where they're a little uncut or completely uncut and early, like the Alien video where you get to hear Rob's soul slowly leave his body as he's reading through this very long alien,
soul-crushing.
I mean, it mainly just has to do with he just isn't that big of a fan, and it was a very long documentary because there was a lot to get through. So as you guys can see on the main channel or on the Patreon, if you want to see the full 30-minute version, I think it's actually like 33 minutes. But yeah.
Yes. And like I said, you will also get the lost episodes too. And we will actually be coming, and we have a special surprise planned for our 50,000 subscribers. To mark that milestone for 50,000 subscribers, we'll be having a Q&A. Woohoo!
Yes, we'll be doing that very, very soon. Yes. So we've got a bunch of your questions. We're going to try and get to as many as we can. So,
and the funnier questions that you can ask, the better chance you have of me answering them. So,
well, I think we've all pretty much got them all figured out now what we're going to be doing. But yeah, so look forward to that. Looking forward to that real soon, just like our Inhumans Roundtable and so much more coming up. Like I said, listen to the show coming up on Thursday. We'll most definitely have some great announcements. I can guarantee you that much. But if you want to get those announcements a little bit earlier, you can always subscribe to Patreon. Anyway.
Yes. And if you don't have the means to subscribe to Patreon, then just please subscribe to the main channel.
And watch the commercials.
Yes, and watch the commercials.
I know the commercials sometimes there's a lot of them, but hey, at least you can go pee.
Yes. At least there's that. We provide bathroom breaks. See, we were always thinking ahead.
Exactly.
So anyway, that's about it for
call your
midnight.
Grandma.
Call your grandma. Call your friends. Call your enemies.
For just like a minute, you're like, hey, what's up? Oh, okay, I gotta go. You know, that's all you gotta do. Just occupy yourself for a minute. 30 seconds.
Walk the dog. Let the cat out. So I don't. So I think that's about it.
I think we covered
everything. So one more time, I am Rob Robot Shlomo from Shabby Road Studios, and you are
Tom Connors.
And this has been Midnight's Edge After Dark, and we will catch you next time.